In the last video, I talked about what an amazing coincidence it was that the monk Sinaiticus was in various places just in time to see Simonides and Tischendorf in various stages of creating or looking at or changing the Greek Codex Sinaiticus. But maybe it wasn't a coincidence. When you find the same guy again and again at crucial points of a story, and he really was in those places at those times, you start to wonder if he has a bigger part in the picture than you thought before. But before I delve more about Sinaiticus, I have to tell you this. Years ago, when Chris Pinto of Adullam Films first approached me with the concept of Simonides creating the Sinaiticus, I had real legitimate doubts. One of the biggest had to do with a place called Mount Athos. But it turned out that I had the completely wrong idea about what Mount Athos was, is, and isn't. And over the course of the last year, before your very eyes on this vlog, I began to find out the truth about Mount Athos and why Simonides' story rings true or not. Finally, things started making sense. But some of all that thinking process was behind the scenes, and some more of it was after I finished last year's Something Funny About Sinaiticus series and started to put together the upcoming book. Would you like to see what helped change my thinking and what may very well influence yours? Hi, I'm David Daniels from Chick Publications. Now, at no time do I want you to think I'm forcing you into anything. That's what cults do. Cults, and I've been in a couple, force a party line down people's throats and demonize anyone and everyone who doesn't toe the line. I can't do that. That's not me. All I can do is put the facts out there and let you, brothers and sisters, make your own decisions. I already believe Sinaiticus isn't and couldn't be God's holy and preserved words in any way, shape, or form. So it really doesn't matter to me whether the Sinaiticus is a new fake or an old fake. But I am so intrigued by this. I love a good mystery, and as a lot of you know, when I have a question, it nags at me until I get the facts. So let me tell you the basic story, a couple of my objections, and the answers I found. The basic story is this. Simonides claimed his uncle Benedict, who was the monk over the monastery at Panteleimon on Mount Athos, sent for Constantine Simonides, his 19-year-old nephew, to copy various documents and make a main big Greek Bible in ancient-looking script. It was to be corrected, and then it was to be presented as a gift from Benedict to Tsar Nicholas I of Russia, the patron of the monastery. Benedict hoped the Tsar would express his gratitude for the gift by giving the monastery a printing press. Uncle Benedict also had a stash of documents that were entrusted to Benedict by Gregory, a monk on his deathbed. Benedict then put them at Simonides' disposal to read and copy them since Benedict's eyes were failing. The main calligrapher at Panteleimon at this point was Dionysius. He was old, not a professional calligrapher. He didn't know ancient Greek and didn't feel he was up to the task. So Benedict sent for his nephew Simonides, an excellent young copyist, to do that massive job. Is that clear so far? See, each one of those elements is important. So if you need to, stop and go back and listen to that short summary again. Okay, truth be told, I was lost at step 1, Mount Athos. For months last year, I could not figure out what was so special about some mountain in the middle of Greece. Wasn't it just a hill with a bunch of monks and libraries on it? No. Once I learned about what Mount Athos really is, and a bit about its geography and history, it all started to make sense. Mount Athos is not a mountain in the middle of Greece, like I once thought. Mount Athos is really an isolated peninsula. It is almost completely surrounded by water. It is only 3 to 5 miles wide, with over 20 miles of coastline, dotted with monasteries facing the Aegean Sea on one side alone. And the Aegean Sea was a welcome mat to pirates. Every so many years, pirates would brave the wind and the weather and land on Athos and start pillaging the monasteries of their valuables. So now, naturally, any monk who wanted to keep his holy book safe and any other stuff had to learn how to hide it. It only makes sense. And if you read about the history of the monks on Athos, there are a number of sources on the internet. Fascinating reading. It's obvious why the monks trust few others. So they pick and choose who they pass information down to. Generation after generation. One guy would learn the secrets, then pass them down to another trusted guy from the next generation. But there are two sides to the peninsula. There's the open Aegean side and a calmer side along the Gulf of the Holy Mountain. But to get there, you have to sail around the southern tip of Athos. And the winds and the weather are so dangerous, they once sank a Persian fleet, 492 BC. Look it up. So if you were going to hide precious books, where would you take them? I'd take them to the protected side and give them to a trustworthy monk for safekeeping. And by the way, Panteleimon Monastery is on the protected Gulf side. It would be only natural for a monk on the protected side to get control of a stash of precious books away from the marauding influence of pirates. I already read about the story about right over here. Another place, Kilindario. They stored their stuff at Panteleimon. But secret doesn't mean you show it to anyone who comes into the peninsula and is looking for books. That explains how the Greek historian Spiridon Paulolampros could come onto Mount Athos, visit all the monasteries, write a detailed 2-volume catalog of the Greek manuscripts of Mount Athos from 24 collections, and yet not find the most valuable Greek texts. But they were there. And when certain leaders decided to, they took a number of ancient Greek documents from Mount Athos out of hiding. And 2 of those documents were copies of Barnabas and the Shepherd of Hermas. See, there's an Athos edition right here, the Shepherd of Hermas. Coincidentally, the same 2 we find at the end of Sinaiticus. So valuable manuscripts were on Mount Athos. They were just hidden. That's not conjecture. That's history. So let's move on to Simonides. Simonides started on the Sinaiticus in late 1839, around November. A year and a half later, on March 27th, 1841, we find the monk Kallinikos working with Simonides at Panteleimon on Mount Athos on a side project for the feast day of John of Damascus, March 27th. Then, 2 years after that, in February of 1843, the monk Kallinikos saw Simonides again on Mount Athos working with what we call the Sinaiticus. Based on what we know about 1843, Simonides was probably going over the Sinaiticus text of Barnabas with a fine-tooth comb. I'll get to that in a minute. He'd been comparing seven different versions of Barnabas from those secret stashes on Mount Athos, revealed to Simonides by his uncle Benedict. Then he put all that information in his Barnabas book. Look at the facts. Tischendorf stated that in 1844, he'd been the first person to discover an ancient document now called the Sinaiticus. In 1859, he claimed he found that it contained a book called the Epistle of Barnabas. Just a few months ago, I found something special about the Barnabas in Codex Sinaiticus. It was more complete than any other ancient Greek edition anywhere, because it had the first 4 chapters and 7 verses of the 5th, 1:1 to 5:7a, that were missing from every other Greek version known. No one in the West had ever seen those first 4+ chapters in Greek. But wait a minute, a year before Tischendorf even saw Sinaiticus, much less Barnabas, Simonides had already published Barnabas. And I checked it myself. It has those 4 missing chapters just like Sinaiticus. So, Tischendorf wasn't the first. And guess who did see Barnabas before Tischendorf discovered it? Simonides had seen it first. How can we explain it? Simonides said he made that copy we call Sinaiticus. There it is. But that's not all. What's in that text? Remember how Simonides said that he made this copy we called Sinaiticus. Then he sent it to monks to correct the first draft. That marked up draft is what we call the Codex Sinaiticus. So in Codex Sinaiticus, we should find 2 things. The original text Simonides said he copied from that stash, plus those monks' notes of words to be corrected. Well, guess what? Go online to www.codexsinaiticus.org. All those corrections that we find today online in those photographs of Sinaiticus, Simonides had already published a final text with those corrections years before Tischendorf ever saw Sinaiticus. Simonides was telling the truth. Not only that, but if I look in Simonides' footnotes, the words from the version Simonides used called Gaspareos have the original Sinaiticus words. And the words that were changed by the monks are there in Simonides' main text. So, like it or not, I had to accept that 1, Simonides had information no one else had before anyone else had it. 2, Simonides published that information before anyone had ever seen the Sinaiticus. I said it before and I'll say it again. Simonides was telling the truth. So, Simonides took all the changes made by the monks in the Sinaiticus and he wrote them in this book as the main text. Why? It's pretty clear. I think he wanted to copy those corrections into his next version of Barnabas for his final version of the book for the Tsar. There's more to that, but that's not for this video. Then he took the Gaspareos version that matches the Sinaiticus, added the 6 other versions right here of Barnabas from Mount Athos and put them in footnotes. When he finished, he published the book no later than April of 1843. That's the date of the article in the Star of the East, April 26, 1843, about the book. And that's just 2 months after Callinicos saw Simonides with the Sinaiticus. That's a lot to take in, but it all fits the timeline. Reading all this evidence, I was finally willing to take Simonides and Callinicos' testimony at face value. Based on that, what did Simonides expect to happen next? Simonides expected these things. The Sinaiticus would then go to St. Catherine's and be checked over by Callistratus and any other monks with him. 2. The fixed-up Barnabas then would go into his final draft of the Sinaiticus with all the changes in it, the same as his 1843 book on Barnabas. 3. Then Simonides would make another full Bible with whatever other monks were part of that stage of the process. 4. The finished copy would be bound and sent by Uncle Benedict, who is over the Russian Orthodox monastery at St. Panteleimon as a gift to the Tsar of Russia. 5. The Tsar would be grateful and moved to grant the request of Benedict and buy them a printing press for the monastery, maybe to get out printed copies of all their treasury of manuscripts. But spoiler, it didn't happen that way. What Simonides expected, he didn't get. It turns out that Callinicos had something else in mind. And I couldn't believe it when I understood what it was that Callinicos really wanted and what happened to his plans after that. But I can't go into all that yet. That's another story of betrayal and intrigue. But think about these things first, because I'll show you that part of the story in the next vlog. The bottom line is this. Simonides made the Sinaiticus in the 1800s. It is not an ancient document. So all those new Bibles are making changes based on a fake, modern text. God bless you and have a wonderful day.